Hashtag National Park, the vacation setting, and the military sister's persona. The air in the minivan was thick with the scent of sunscreen, stale fast food fries, and an undeniable, simmering tension. For the first time in 3 years, a period punctuated by deployments, training rotations, and the general relentless march of adult responsibilities, the entire Miller clan was attempting a proper, extended family vacation. The destination was the Whispering Pines Lodge, a sprawling, slightly rustic resort nestled deep in the Tennessee mountains, promising rustic charm and digital detox. For parents, Susan and George, it represented a chance to reconnect with their children, now scattered across the country pursuing disparate careers. For the siblings, 3 of them, plus 2 spouses and 4 energetic grandchildren, it was supposed to be a week of mandated relaxation and forced bonding. Enter Major Elara Miller. At 32, Elara was the second oldest but easily the most formidable. Currently serving as an operations officer in the U.S. Army, she was fresh off a 6-month stint overseeing complex logistics in a high-stress, rapidly evolving environment. Her civilian wardrobe, though technically comprised of soft linen shirts and comfortable walking shorts, looked suspiciously like a highly functional uniform on her. Every item was wrinkle-free, every move precise. Her demeanor was an extension of her professional life. Clipped, efficient, and calibrated for optimal performance. Elara didn't do vacation well. For her, vacation was an operational planning phase waiting to happen. She viewed the entire trip, from the initial packing of the luggage into an efficient, interlocking cube system to the establishment of the daily meal schedule, as a complex logistical puzzle requiring a firm hand and clear communication protocols. Her younger brother, Liam, a freelance musician known for his spontaneous spirit and chronic lateness, was the first casualty of Elara's vacation regime. Liam, that duffel bag is not properly tagged, and it exceeds the maximum authorized weight for the overhead storage unit, which, in this case, is the luggage rack in the hallway. She had stated with the even tone of someone reading regulations, not talking to her brother about his dirty laundry. Elara, we're not flying on a C-130, we're driving to a lodge. It's just my guitars and my snacks, Liam had groaned, deliberately slumping further into his seat. The entire family dynamic was a clash of cultures. Susan and George, the parents, longed for the easygoing, see where the day takes us spirit of their youth. Elara, however, saw the potential for suboptimal resource allocation, an absolute waste of their precious, contracted 7 days of paid leave. Her sister, Clara, a frazzled corporate lawyer, found Elara's discipline both irritating and secretly comforting. Clara knew that if Elara was in charge, nothing would be forgotten, and they wouldn't miss a single reservation. But the constant awareness of being on a schedule, even while sitting by the pool, was exhausting. The tension wasn't hostile, it was just structural. Elara couldn't relax her posture or her mind. She constantly scanned the environment, checking for vulnerabilities, like a forgotten room key or a toddler wandering too close to the hot tub, and formulating contingency plans, like the nearest route to the emergency room, just in case. This military mindset meant that every familial request or suggestion was processed through a filter of tactical efficiency. Mom, should we try to make it to that antique shop before dinner? Clara might ask. Elara's internal monologue translated this to assessment of objective viability low. Requires diversion from established timeline, risks impacting critical evening meal preparation, and potential introduction of non-essential material into the common operating area. Recommended action: deny, and thus the stage was set. The family was physically together in a beautiful, relaxing place, but Elara was still psychologically deployed. She was the immovable object of discipline in the face of the irresistible force of vacation entropy. The entire group was unknowingly waiting for the moment when the chaos would inevitably reach a level that Elara would deem an operational failure, forcing her to abandon diplomacy and issue a direct, undeniable, and very military command. The peace, everyone instinctively knew, was merely a temporary ceasefire. Email the critical communication and the order of operations. The breaking point arrived on day 2, right after a disastrous attempt at a family hike to a local waterfall. The cascade itself was stunning, but the journey to it was pure, unadulterated Miller-style disarray. One grandchild was suffering a minor existential crisis over a lost stick. Liam had forgotten the water bottles, a critical hydration failure, in Alara's book, and Clara's husband, David, had taken a shortcut that added 40 minutes of scrambling over slippery rocks. Alara had maintained a veneer of stoicism throughout the trek, her jaw muscles twitching visibly as the family cohesion rapidly disintegrated. But upon returning to the lodge, hot, dusty, and 30 minutes past the planned lunch window, she decided the civilian approach to vacation was fundamentally flawed and required immediate corrective action. That evening, while the rest of the family was showering or collapsed on their beds in an exhausted heap, Alara was busy. She wasn't winding down with a book. She was sitting ramrod straight at the dining table, typing furiously on her laptop. She was drafting what she internally termed the Miller Family Vacation Operational Directive 1.0. The chosen medium for this critical communication was the family's group chat, ironically named Pines and Chill, which usually consisted of blurry photos and requests for someone to fetch the remote. The message landed in the chat with the weight of a dropped ordnance. It was not a casual text. It was a densely formatted, bullet-pointed manifesto that filled 4 full screens. #### subject. Urgent. Reestablishing mission parameters. Operational shift required. Ref. Pines and Chill. The language was clinical and devoid of familial warmth. *Sitrep, situation report current mission execution status is assessed as ineffective, code red, due to significant deviations from implied objectives, relaxation, reconnection, and timeliness. *AAR, after action review, Day 2 hike key failures identified include logistics deficiencies, hydration oversight, navigation malfunctions, unauthorized route changes, and discipline decay, noise level noncompliance / minor civilian casualty. Goal reestablish a stable, predictable operating environment to maximize resource utilization, time / prepaid resort activities. Execution, revised daily roster, effective 0600 hours, day 3. *0600 Reveille. All personnel are required to be alert and present. Coffee rations will be distributed. *0630 Personal readiness and gear check. All personal effects must be secured, and activity rucksacks prepared. Ref. Attached packing list A. *0700 Mess hall call. Consumption of sustenance is mandatory to maintain operational readiness. *1000-1200 Mission Alpha * Lakeside kayaking rotation. Designated lead coordinator, Clara. Support personnel, Liam, David. Alara didn't stop there. She assigned specific roles using official-sounding titles. Logistics officer, Elo Mom, responsible for securing room keys, confirming reservations, and managing vehicular asset parking. Morale, welfare and recreation officer, MWRO Dad, responsible for maintaining a positive outlook and administering scheduled, fun time. Personnel security officer, PSO Alara, responsible for enforcing the schedule and ensuring all personnel are accounted for during transition periods. The entire message was shocking in its sheer audacity, but the phrase that truly cemented its absurdity, the one that would forever be etched in Miller family lore, came at the very end. The planned itinerary for that evening had been a campfire cookout. But due to the late return from the hike, Alara had unilaterally decided the plan was untenable. Warning: due to time slippage and resource depletion, the 1900 campfire cookout is designated a high-risk activity. All units are advised to abort mission immediately and proceed to individual room and board for prepackaged MRE consumption. I repeat, all personnel, effective immediately, are ordered to ***. #fallback. Confirm receipt of Directive 1.0 via group chat within 10 minutes. The silence in the chat was louder than any argument. One by one, the family members checked their phones. Susan, their mother, sent a single emoji of a tiny, weeping face. Liam typed a long response, then deleted it, settling for a confused question mark. The narrator, however, the observant one, saw the message not as an insult, but as a golden, usable piece of evidence. The order of operations was so perfectly Alara, so absurdly military for a family vacation, that it had to be saved. He immediately screenshot the entire exchange, knowing that this communication, this official digital declaration of fallback, was a weapon for future comedic deployment. The vacation had gone from relaxing to ridiculous in a single, well-formatted, all-caps message. ## collision, the moment of chaos and the shouted order of fall back. Day 3 dawned, predictably, on Alara's schedule. Reveille at 0600 was met with a mixture of groans and grudging compliance, the family moving with the slow, stiff motions of soldiers pressed into an unwelcome morning drill. For a few hours, the operational directive held. Coffee was consumed promptly. The mess hall call was answered by 0705. The first activity, Mission Alpha, lakeside kayaking rotation, proceeded with alarming efficiency, driven by Alara's steely glare and Clara's desperate wish to avoid a further AAR after-action review. But vacations are inherently resistant to military discipline. The carefully constructed piece was destined to shatter, and it did so spectacularly around 1430 during what was scheduled as Unstructured Recreational Period 1.0, poolside. The pool area of the Whispering Pines Lodge was a microcosm of summer mayhem. Squealing children, blaring pop music, and the smell of chlorine and melting popsicles. George, the father and designated MWRO, Morale, Welfare and Recreation Officer, was doing a commendable job of trying to look relaxed on a deck chair, though he kept nervously glancing at his watch, a habit he'd picked up since receiving Directive 1.0. The chaos began subtly, then escalated exponentially, achieving the level of a full-scale operational meltdown. Phase 1, the logistics failure. Liam, the support personnel/musician, had been tasked with bringing the snack cooler. He had, instead, forgotten the ice, leaving a warm, sweating disaster of defrosted sandwiches and lukewarm sodas. When confronted by Alara, he simply shrugged. It's supposed to be chill, Alara. It's vacation. Phase 2. The equipment malfunction. One of the grandchildren, little 4-year-old Toby, had been playing with a brightly colored inflatable unicorn float, an unauthorized piece of equipment not listed in Alara's approved gear manifest. In a moment of high-spirited wrestling with his older cousin, the unicorn ripped, letting out a long, pathetic hiss of escaping air. Toby immediately launched into a caterwauling, lung-testing scream that cut through the pool noise like an air raid siren. Phase 3. The personnel MIA. Just as Toby's cry peaked, Susan, the LO logistics officer, realized she couldn't see her phone. She was convinced she'd left it by the communal changing rooms, 50 meters away, but in her rush to find it, she tripped over a discarded pool noodle, sending her sprawling, thankfully unharmed, but thoroughly embarrassed. The confluence of warm food, a screaming child, a minor adult injury, and a lost communication device was simply too much for Major Alara Miller. Her tactical mind, honed by years of managing crises in theater, could not process this level of civilian recreational incompetence. Her fight-or-flight response didn't activate. Instead, her command response did. She leaped to her feet, her eyes wide, scanning the rapidly deteriorating situation. She saw the melting cooler, resource depletion, the screaming child, personnel instability, and her mother scrambling, command element compromised. The environment was contaminated with emotion and logistical breakdown. Alara's internal alarm bells were deafening. This is not sustainable. We are exposed. We are losing control of the perimeter. We need to secure the assets and retreat to a defensible position. All the careful, quiet attempts at integrating back into the family vanished. The linen shirt and walking shorts were forgotten. Her voice, usually carefully controlled, cut through the noise of the pool area. The music, the splashes, Toby's wails, with the undeniable, booming authority of a drill sergeant. She didn't use time to go. She didn't say, "Let's pack up." Pointed directly at her panicked mother and her shrugging brother, Alara's command was sharp, loud, and utterly incomprehensible to any civilian ear. Cease fire. Cease fire. We have uncontrolled situation. Hello, secure the gear. Support personnel. Silence that asset. All personnel. Disengage. I repeat, disengage. Disengage. Then, taking a deep, ragged breath, she delivered the final, non-negotiable command, meant to cut off discussion and enforce immediate movement back to the safe zone of their rented cabin. Hashtag, fall back. Fall back to base camp. Now. The effect was instantaneous and stunning. Toby, mid-wail, stopped crying, startled into silence. The other families in the pool area froze, turning from their splashing to stare at the tall woman barking military jargon at a bunch of vacationers. Liam dropped his warm soda. Susan slowly rose from the ground, looking terrified. The family was paralyzed, staring at their sister, who looked ready to call in an air strike if the movement wasn't immediate. The moment was not just tense. It was absurd, the ultimate, hilarious climax of the military-civilian culture clash. The narrator, who had been lazily flipping through a magazine, witnessed the entire, magnificent breakdown. He knew exactly what had to happen next to break the severe, embarrassing tension. The proof of Alara's true intent, the written, formal order, was sitting right in his pocket, ready to be deployed. Hashtag mobile phone with arrow, the exposure of the email and the comedic relief. The air by the pool was thick enough to chew. The collective silence of the surrounding sunbathers was judgmental and absolute. They were all staring at Alara, whose chest was heaving with the remnants of her adrenaline-fueled command. The Miller family, however, was staring at the ground, deeply humiliated. Susan, the logistics officer, looked seconds away from tears. Liam, the support personnel, looked ready to bolt. The narrator, the quiet sibling who had carefully observed Alara's transition from loving sister to field commander, knew the emotional pressure cooker had reached critical mass. A simple apology wouldn't suffice. Alara was too far gone in her military mindset. They needed an explosion of laughter, a reset button pressed by pure absurdity. And the key to that reset was in his pocket. Slowly, deliberately, the narrator raised a hand toward the stunned Alara. "Major," he said, using the title with a gentle mock formality. "With all due respect to Operational Directive 1.0, do we have to fall back to MREs again?" Alara blinked, the military focus in her eyes wavering for the first time. "What are you talking about? Narrator's name? Just move." The narrator pulled out his phone, holding it aloft like a white flag of surrender or, perhaps, a critical piece of classified intel. "I mean," the narrator continued, maintaining his calm, measured tone, "I'm just confirming our orders, because, judging by the level of discipline decay and personnel instability here, I'm concerned about our next activity. Did anyone brief the LO about the high-risk activity status of the campfire cookout last night?" He then turned slightly, addressing the remaining family members, Clara, David, the now silent Toby, and the shell-shocked George, all still frozen in their pre-retreat positions. "For those who missed the operational briefing, I feel it's important to clarify the chain of command, particularly regarding our designation as ineffective, code red." The narrator cleared his throat dramatically and began to read directly from the screenshot of Alara's email, projecting his voice just loud enough to carry over the gentle lapping of the pool water, but without the force of Alara's shout. *** subject. Urgent. Re-establishing mission parameters. AR, after action review, day 2 hike ***. Key failures identified include logistics deficiencies, hydration oversight, clearly Liam, navigation malfunctions, sorry, David, and discipline decay, that would be you, Toby. A few of the civilian sunbathers nearest the Millers started to pay closer attention, their expressions shifting from irritation to curiosity. He paused for dramatic effect, then hit the core of the message, the part about the specific roles. And let's not forget the chain of command. Mom is designated logistics officer, responsible for managing vehicular asset parking. Dad is the MWRO, morale, welfare, and recreation officer, responsible for administering scheduled fun time. At this, George, the MWRO, let out a small, strangled laugh that sounded like a rusty hinge. The sheer weight of his official title, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Officer, applied to a man who just wanted to sip a cold beer and read the paper, was too much. Then came the grand finale, the reason for the chaos that had just unfolded. The narrator read Alara's closing directive, emphasizing the capital letters. All units are advised to abort mission immediately and proceed to individual room and board for prepackaged MRE consumption. I repeat, all personnel, effective immediately, are ordered to fall back. Confirm receipt of Directive 1.0 via group chat within 10 minutes. For a second, the silence persisted. Then, Liam, the musician, burst into a loud, braying fit of laughter. It was infectious. He doubled over, clutching his stomach, tears streaming down his face. Clara, the frazzled lawyer, joined in, a high-pitched, hysterical giggle escaping her. David just shook his head, a huge, relieved smile breaking through his embarrassment. The climax arrived when Susan, the logistical officer who had nearly been crying seconds before, pointed at Alara and managed to gasp out a single word through her laughter. Amaris, we're at a resort, Alara. What MREs? Alara, who had stood stiffly through the entire reading, waiting for the fury, finally cracked. The absurdity of hearing her own highly formalized military-grade jargon applied to her civilian family, and read aloud to an audience of strangers, hit her with the force of a comedic strike. A slow, reluctant smile spread across her face, followed by a defeated but genuine laugh. It was a rusty sound, one the family hadn't heard much since she enlisted. Okay, Alara admitted, running a hand through her hair. Okay, that was a gross overreach of authority. She looked at the confused onlookers and added, with a wry, theatrical wave, "Stand down, people. Just a family emergency." The tension was utterly broken. The military officer had been defeated by the evidence of her own ridiculous formality. The vacation, saved not by discipline, but by the ultimate weapon, family humor. Hashtag handshake resolution. Decommissioning and the new family code. The pool area, which had been silent with shock moments earlier, was now filled with the sound of genuine, cathartic laughter. The exposed email had served its purpose, slicing through the tension like a laser beam. Alara, having endured the public reading of her Operational Directive 1.0, finally lowered her defenses. She walked over to her brother, the narrator, who still had the screenshot displayed on his phone. Okay, she conceded, a sheepish, almost self-deprecating grin on her face. That was peak me. She reached out and lightly tapped the phone screen. You saved that, didn't you? You saved the whole ridiculous thing. Of course I did, the narrator replied, tucking the phone back into his pocket. It's the family's equivalent of the Gettysburg Address now. Historic. Well, consider me decommissioned, Alara announced, raising her hands in a gesture of surrender. Effective immediately, the personnel security officer is requesting a brief leave of absence from command. The chain of command is reverted to the default, non-military setting. Susan, the recently demoted logistics officer, rushed over and pulled her daughter into a fierce hug. Oh, honey, we know you've been under stress, but fall back to MREs? We just need you to be our Alara, not Major Miller, for a week. I know, Mom, Alara murmured into her shoulder. It's hard to switch off the mindset. It's ingrained. But I promise no more mission parameters. No more AARs. Liam, ever the opportunist, chimed in. So what about the unauthorized equipment, PSO? Is the inflatable unicorn float salvageable? Or is it a write-off? Alara managed a genuine smile. It's a write-off, Liam, but in the spirit of civilian leisure, you can buy a new one, on the condition that you also buy ice for the cooler. The rest of the vacation, while not entirely devoid of minor mishaps, because the Millers were still the Millers, was dramatically lighter. Alara consciously stepped back. She refrained from organizing the board game night into a rank tournament. She resisted the urge to time their excursions to the local town. She even allowed George, the former MWRO, to spontaneously suggest a change of dinner plans without issuing a formal risk assessment. However, the language of the Miller Family Vacation Operational Directive 1.0 did not entirely disappear. Instead, it was spontaneously and gleefully adopted by the family as their new shared code. If Liam was lagging behind and holding up the group, Clara would lean in and whisper conspiratorially, "You're creating a logistics deficiency, support personnel. Move it." If the grandchildren were being particularly loud and unmanageable, George would clear his throat dramatically and announce, "I believe we are experiencing a significant discipline decay in Sector 3. And whenever things genuinely started to get overwhelming, the moment when everyone was tired, slightly irritable, and ready to snap, one of them, usually the narrator, would simply say clearly and loudly the two magic words, ##, fall back. The phrase instantly triggered a collective memory of the ridiculous pool scene and Alara's uniformed absurdity. It became a cue not for a military retreat, but for a psychological decompression. It meant, "Stop what you're doing, the stress level is too high, and we need 5 minutes of quiet time." It was the perfect synthesis of Alara's life and their family life. A highly efficient, single-word command used not for military action, but for familial self-care. Alara left the resort feeling more rested than she had in years. She had spent the week not as an officer managing a team, but as a sister and a daughter being managed by her family's affection. She recognized that her discipline was a part of her, but it needed to be left at the barracks door sometimes. Her family, in turn, learned that even in the most rigid of professional lives, there was always room for a good, old-fashioned, highly documented family joke. As they packed the minivan, this time without Alara's interlocking cube system, resulting in a somewhat precarious tower of bags, Liam pointed to the messy pile. "Do you want to retag those, Major?" he teased. Alara smiled, slid into her seat, and buckled up. "Nope, I'm off duty. Besides, if that pile shifts, we'll just have to implement an emergency fallback maneuver at the next rest stop." The whole family laughed, ready to go home. Their bond strengthened not despite the chaos, but because of the brilliantly documented chaos of the operational directive.